Okay, so we have this week two press conferences in New York, one for the May the 2nd show and then one for May the 3rd show. We also had Tank Davis on over the weekend. We're hearing talk of Dubois versus Usyk. We're hearing lots of news come out. But one person who we're not hearing much about, at least until now, and even then we're not really hearing from him, we're hearing from his promoter, is Anthony Joshua. Now, Eddie Hearn was on Talksport, and I'm going to read here from the article. It says he'd probably get criticised. Hearn pours doubts on the potential next fight for Anthony Joshua as he draws a 5-name list up. So Eddie Hearn was interviewed with Talksport, and basically, obviously, the subject of Anthony Joshua is going to come up. We haven't heard. Well, we've heard from him in spots. We heard from him at the Ring Magazine Award show and stuff like that when he was mentioning Tyson Fury before he retired, even though he's still ranked by the Ring Magazine. So strange one that. And that was kind of the fight he was mentioning, the fight he was talking about. Now it's kind of what happens. Well, Eddie Hearn insists there are 5 names in the run to box Anthony Joshua next, but one is less likely than the other. AJ is set to return to the ring this summer following his devastating knockout loss to Daniel Dubois in September. Hearn will sit down with Joshua immediately to discuss his next fight. The plan was for AJ to finally square off with Tyson Fury this summer. Saudi boxing chief Turki Al-Sheikh said was even said to be preparing a lucrative 2-fight deal. However, the fight has been shelved as Fury announced his retirement from boxing in January following a second consecutive defeat to Alexander Usyk. While Hearn is hoping Fury will reverse his decision, he isn't banking on it. The Matchroom chief is planning to sit down with Joshua and his advisors imminently to discuss potential next opponents, and there is no shortage of options. Speaking exclusively to Talksport, he said, and I quote, Daniel Dubois still is the front runner. In an ideal world, he will fight Fury, if not Dubois. There is also Joseph Parker, who I think will be a great fight. There is Ajay Kabayel and Deontay Wilder. Obviously, His Excellency has stated he would love to see that fight. We will have to see, but really the talks are imminent with Joshua now to lock in an opponent for the summer. A blockbuster showdown with Bacoli is still in play as well, although Hearn has poured doubts on it following the Congolese puncher's stoppage loss to Joseph Parker 2 weeks ago. I guess the Bacoli fight is still there, but he would probably get criticised if he fought Bacoli, so less likely he at it. And is there anything else? Anything else? It's done. I'm hearing he signed, and we're told we're off to Congo last month. That's what Ben Shalom said. So other than that, there's not really a great deal. So let's look at the names. So obviously Eddie Hearn has mentioned that Tyson Fury is the number one name. Turkey planning a 2-fight deal before Tyson Fury, quote unquote, retired. Let's wait and see how long that lasts. I mean, a 2-fight deal for Anthony Joshua at this point with Tyson Fury, that would probably see both guys, to be fair, if Fury was to fight him over the line in terms of their respective careers. They would do kind of, I would imagine Fury versus Joshua at this point would be a bit of a farewell tour. I mean, you could argue if it's a 2-fight deal and say Fury comes out on top in both fights, it could potentially put him in contention to challenge for a title again, yeah, maybe. But you would say that realistically for both guys, that is kind of a farewell tour, so to speak. Maybe one in the UK, one in Saudi, or vice versa, the other way around. But you would imagine that's what it would be. Now, having said that, I still really do think that's probably the only fight that you could look at and confidently say, with the exception maybe Deontay Wilder, not even then, that you would actually, that would probably actually be, somewhat winnable for Anthony Joshua. I wouldn't pick him. Personally, I think Fury has more left in the tank, but, there you go. In terms of Daniel Dubois being the front runner, listen, we all know Eddie Hearn likes to say things. He'll come out and say things. Oh, Daniel Dubois is the front runner. At the end of the day, Anthony Joshua was knocked out in 5 rounds by Daniel Dubois. One, he was the voluntary challenger. He wasn't the champion. So for him to just be able to, dust himself down after a fight which was one-sided. He was never in the fight at all, apart from maybe 5 seconds in the 5th round, which ultimately led to him getting knocked out. To be able to just say, Dubois is the front runner and I'm going in there, I don't think that's right, personally. And I think the fact that Turkey has been mentioned that he wants to see Dubois versus Usyk. Look, Eddie Hearn can say what he wants about, Daniel Dubois is the front runner. At the end of the day, if Turkey Al-Sheikh is saying that he wants to see Usyk versus Dubois, And it looks ever more likely that's what we're going to get, because Dubois is not going ahead with the Parker fight, and it doesn't look like he's going to give Parker a fight anytime soon. So for me, it's like, you can say Dubois is the front runner all you want. Maybe in your mind you want him to be the front runner, but it ain't going to happen. And if Joshua fought Dubois again, I mean, that's just, I don't see how he wins that fight. I really don't. In terms of Joe Parker, let's talk about Adji Kabayel before we go to Joe Parker. We might leave him and Bakoli to last. Adji Kabayel, I can't see that fight happening. Eddie Hearn can name drop him all he wants, but that fight, I don't even think the Saudis would look at that fight and think, yeah, let's do that. Logically, it just makes no sense. Adji Kabayel is on the ascendancy, Joshua was on the decline, and look, Adji Kabayel has proved himself to be a real dark horse in the heavyweight division. I like what I'm seeing from him. I couldn't believe how he fought Zhilei Zhang in the pocket and was able to get rid of him like that. No one else could do that. So yeah, he's on a great run of form, but at the end of the day, he's still a kind of, I don't want to say unknown commodity, because he's not, but to the casual audience, you would see someone like a Kabayel and you'd be like, who the hell is that? Who is Anthony Joshua fighting? So I can't see them doing that one just from a selling point of view. But Coley, yeah, I mean, it's hard to criticize Bakoli in the sense of Eddie Hearn is saying it, because, you know, context. He took a fight on a couple of days' notice. He arrived in Saudi Arabia the morning of the fight, and he got stopped in 2 rounds. I would be saying, with a full camp, how would that go? I would probably favour Bakoli with a full camp, but in taking that payday, and now he's not fighting, well, he might fight on Canelo's undercard, but he's not fighting on that Times Square show. So the May dates are starting to close up. So if he doesn't fight in May, that makes that decision to take that fight all the more ridiculous and all the more idiotic, to take that fight on such short notice. It really does. So Bakoli, we maybe can put next through him. Wilder, well, his fight with Curtis Harper, amazingly, whoever would have thought BLK wouldn't have the funds to put up for that fight? Crazy. Madness. Shock. Look, Wilder's talking about coming back. I think Wilder's done. I think Anthony Joshua was done. And I think that fight there is winner stays on and loser leaves town. And again, that could be a little farewell tour for them both if it was a 2-fight deal. I don't even want to see 2 fights. I mean, I'd see 1 fight. I'd make Anthony Joshua a favourite. And then that'd be it. Because I think Wilder is done. Not in terms of physically. He looks physically not much removed from what he always did. But just mentally, he's shot to bits. You can't let those punches go. And I've always said, you take the right hand away. I mean, you've got a fairly, I was going to say, that's generous, a very basic fighter in front of you. That then leaves Joseph Parker, who is a bit out in the wilderness now. Given the fact that he was meant to be in there with Dubois, he then obviously wasn't. He fights a very, very short notice Bakoli. He's still WBO interim champion for what it's worth, but they're not calling that mandatory. It looks like Usyk is going to fight Dubois, and if he beats Dubois, he's going to have one more kind of, I want to say a gimme fight, and then sail off into the sunset. So Parker could be waiting a while for his title. He may get elevated to full champion before the year is out, but it does kind of leave him in limbo. You got to bear in mind, he beat Zhilei Zhang last March, and it was the end of February the following year before he fought again. So you don't really want to see that happen, especially someone who's in the ascendancy like Joseph Parker. Him against Anthony Joshua at this point in their respective careers, it's 7 years after the first meeting. One of them is arguably having the best run of form in his career. The other guy's coming in off the back of a devastating, awful 5th round knockout. I think at this point in their careers, and Joseph Parker seems to have a bit more aggression to him than he certainly did under Kevin Barry all those years ago. He's much heavier. I think he's 30 pounds heavier thereabouts than he was when he fought Joshua the first time. So why not? I've heard rumours, and again, they are rumours, so take them with a pinch of salt, that they're looking to do another Queensberry versus Matchroom. Parker's Queensberry, AJ's Matchroom. You put that as a headline act in Saudi Arabia or in the UK, boom, there you go. There's your pay-per-view. There's your fight card. There's your main event. So the names he's mentioned, realistically, if Fury doesn't come back, and I suspect he probably will, then I'd be saying just do the Joe Parker fight. There you go. Do the Joe Parker fight. Simple as. So out of those names, if Fury stays retired, the most likely, in my opinion, at this point is Joe Parker. And, you know, I've hinted at that fight. I've said it in previous videos. And again, for me, it just makes the most sense. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Anthony Joshua, that's the shortlist Eddie Hearn has mentioned. Who out of that shortlist would you like to see him fight next? And do you, like me, think if it's not Tyson Fury, Joe Parker probably does make the most sense? Leave it on in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed it, people. Smash the like button if you could. As always, hit subscribe, all that good stuff. Until next time, people, I'll leave it there. Peace.